Is there sharks here?
People, you couldn't talk to women, especially.
Just like me.
Just like you.
Yeah.
Just like you. You just oink at them and they run away.
Okay, calm down. I don't believe in marriage.
No, you don't. No, it's ridiculous. I had a guy fall out of a tree and shattered his spine. We just messed up this whole podcast.
So who am I here with right now?
Who are you here with right now?
Who am I here with right now?
Oh shit!
How do you present yourself?
Usually fully nude, but sometimes I'll wear something in a nice Speedo.
So I'm here with Gary. Gary, what's your full name, if you want to say it? If you want to say
Gary DeSanti.
Gary DeSanti.
Italian, Northern Italy.
Oh crap! Really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, of the Saints.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? So I've got a little halo. I won't say what's holding that halo up, but you know, I tend to be horny.
Let the dog out of you and shit.
Who let the dog out?
So, what made you want to like the whole fit? Like, I love the fit, bro. Honestly, it's cool. Like, what made you want to wear it? Like, it's like, you know how everyone says a fit has a story? What's the story off of this fit today?
This one?
Yeah.
My bass player wore these red pants one time on stage,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, that looks fire. I'm going to get some red pants. And so I ordered some, and I put them in the closet, and I forgot they were there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found them like a month ago. I'm like, oh, I should start wearing those red pants, man. Those things are fire. And so, yeah, the red pants, I brought them out. I ordered these shoes from Italy, and they're bomb. They reminded me of, the reason I ordered them is because they reminded me of the original Roadhouse.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see the original Roadhouse, or did you just watch the Conor McGregor fucking?
Yeah, the Conor McGregor one.
That one sucks. That's not a good movie. I couldn't believe when I was like, how did a whole bunch of people get together and make this dog shit? But you know, whatever, right? Some people liked it. That's
mm-hmm.
good. They can like it if they want. Terrible story. The plot was horrible. The acting, it was just what? Come on, Gyllenhaal. I mean, there's so many reasons not to like that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like almost every movie. I've watched some terrible movies all the way through just because I'm like, you know, they tried.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth the effort.
Roadhouse
was not it at all. The original, Patrick Swayze, dude, that movie was. What's the dude's name with the deep voice? Yeah, but dude, juice. What's that guy's name? Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott played like his mentor and like had this whole like relationship, and then his girlfriend was Kelly Lynch, and she was a nurse. Dude, that movie's fire.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch the movie. But like, there was this bad guy in that movie. He was like the other badass, like Conor McGregor's basic character in the new one.
Mm-hmm.
And he wore these boots into the bar, and like Patrick Swayze plays this bouncer, you know, and he's like this badass, but he's like chill, you know, just he's always chill. And he sees the guy walk in, the guy walks in, and his boot kind of goes in like this, and they like zoom in on the boot, and you see this little sing, like this razor blade that he's got stuck on his boot, like he's gonna fight, like he's gonna mess some people up. And so I saw these boots, I'm like, oh, look at that metal tip, that's sweet. I'm gonna get some of those. And I don't remember how much I paid for them. They were too much, but it was totally worth it.
They look expensive, yeah. It's pretty cool. Like the boots that we wear are like those, like simple little squares.
Those are good.
Yeah, I've never seen boots like that. That's pretty cool.
But then like this jersey I had made. So
it's a made jersey.
Yeah, so it says cubes on it,
mm-hmm.
which is short for cubensis, which is the psychedelic mushrooms. They're psilocybe cubensis mushrooms. They're the most common kind, anyways. There's a few other ones that are more outlier. And then it's got like a patch for my band on it.
Oh, that's
it
cool.
says G Money on the back. It's kind of like my
is that your like
tag,
code name?
Yeah, when
G-Money?
I'm on like sites where you're not, you know, I'm G Money on those kind of places. Most people know me by that. So, yeah, I had this made up because I was going to do a talk for the Arizona Psychedelic Society of how to cultivate mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I need something to wear that's like, you know, authoritative or something. And so I had this made. And then this shirt's just a bunch of mushrooms with eyeballs. Why not?
It's cool, bro. I respect the fit. It's actually pretty nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Don't look at me like that. But yeah, other than that, like what things you like to do? You say you like to swim with sharks, right?
I do swim with sharks.
That's fucking cool,
as often
bro.
as I can. I mean, I live in Arizona. It's harder to do here. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's not as many sharks around.
Yeah, there's no. Is there sharks here in Arizona?
No.
Only in
There's like one in the aquarium, I think, but they die.
Yeah.
They die all the time. It's terrible. You, like, don't support aquariums. It's horrible the way they treat the animals, but whatever. I won't get into that. I mean, it's great to be able to go see fish, I guess, but it's better than being on a plate. I guess that's true, but it's not good. You shouldn't have dolphins swimming around in a little tiny pool and dying.
Aren't dolphins like more like evil than sharks? People say. Because they're
not evil, but they're more like us than sharks.
Yeah,
they're more like people. They have like serious personalities, and like they're smart. They're smarter than like any other animal on land, I think, than any other like pig. People think pigs are smart, and like dogs and stuff like that. Yeah, dolphins are way smarter.
Pigs are not smart. Yeah,
they are. They're smart. You can train a pig.
Not really, because we tried training this one.
You tried training a pig? Yeah. Oh, that one. Dang. He just goes hog.
You looked at him too. You were looking at him too when he said pig.
He just goes hog wild. He can't help himself.
Yeah, but
no, but dolphins are smart, man. Whales are smart. Like all those sea mammals, like they're smart animals, and to keep them in a cage. I mean, zoos are fucked up too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I used to go to the zoo and think, oh, cool, I get to see a tiger. Now I go to the zoo, I'm like, oh, fuck that poor tiger. You know, it's just not. It's sad. They're in a cage, man. Why are you locked up? What'd you do? What are you in for? Like that's you want to ask the animal that. It's pretty messed up. But yeah, I like swimming with sharks. I don't get in a cage. Cages are also bad because cages fuck sharks up, and people just like, I want my picture. I don't want to get hurt. You're a bitch. That's what I say. Like, get in the water, fucker. If you want to get a picture, get in the fucking water. Get your picture. Don't be a pussy. Don't be afraid. You know, if you're afraid, you shouldn't be in the water.
Yeah.
You know, you should learn how to fucking interact with these animals in a safe way. I can protect myself from a shark. I'm not scared of them. You know, at first I learned, I had to learn. It's like this. Oh my God. Sharks don't have hands or feet.
They have fins.
They have a mouth that's dangerous. They have teeth, sure, but you just go like this. Push them away.
Yeah, I see people like when they're like coming to them, they just push them like.
Yeah, you just put your hand on top of their head and push them away. They can't do anything about it. They're at your mercy. You know, it's like wrestling and you head control. You can decide where that person's gonna go. And same with the shark, but they got no arms to grab you with. So, you know.
But they're pretty intelligent. They've been alive for like millions of years.
Sharks are very instinct driven animals, and they're efficient at what they do, and they should be respected because the truth of the matter is sharks are what literally keeps us all alive on this planet.
Yeah, they're the
garbage cleaners.
Yeah,
they take out the trash. They eat all the shit that dies. All the if a whale dies, that carcass is gone in a matter of minutes, hours or days because of sharks. Not any other animals eating that much meat. And so without those animals in the water, the whole ocean becomes this mess and nothing lives. The coral reefs all die. All the fish that live on the reefs die. We're already killing it all because we're pulling all these fish out of the ocean all the time. But sharks, people kill them like they're nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you before, we saw a shark. I was swimming with these lemon sharks, and there was one that had a bullet hole in its head.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I remember.
Somebody shot it from a boat. Just, shoot the shark, like... Why is that fun? What the hell? I don't understand. I don't understand a lot of people who do things to animals for fun. Like, it makes no sense to me. But like, that's like, what are you doing, man? Like, in 50 years, if we're lucky to go that long, there won't be any more sharks to see in the ocean. And like, you just have to look them up online or go to an aquarium and hope they kept some alive long enough. What are we doing? It's crazy.
And they try to keep I don't know if you heard the story about the great white that they try to keep in the aquarium.
Oh,
and it kept dying.
Dude, they swim thousands of miles. You can't keep them in a little tiny thing.
It don't matter how big that tank is. You can never. That's why I love great white sharks, because that's the only fish you can't keep in a tank.
Well, all of them die. The whales, the orcas, they die in the fucking aquariums too, and they just don't take pictures.
Yeah,
they try to hide it and shit. Yeah, it's fucked up. Blackfish, that movie is fucked up. But
I know. I've seen that movie.
It's terrible. I mean, and I was listening to something the other day. So Moby Dick is a great novel, right? Have you read Moby Dick?
I haven't read it, but I can't read books. I suck.
I can't read books. I can't read this.
I've seen the movies or like audio read them technically.
So Moby Dick was like this huge novel that came out, you know, but it's about real stuff. Like it's about the guy who wrote that book saw the ocean, and it was teeming with whales. There were so many whales everywhere back then. There's nothing now.
There's hardly
you can hardly find a whale. It's so hard to find. You go whale watching. If you ever go whale watching, like you're lucky if you see a whale, and they know where they're at, and they're trying to take you to see whales, and you still might not see whales. There used to be thousands of whales all over everywhere in the ocean. Now, none. And there's no predators that are killing them.
No,
they are dying by us.
Yeah,
you know, we're trying to wipe them off the planet, and it's like, why? Why do we do that? Why do humans do that?
I don't know. Did you hear about the whole rhino situation?
Oh, everything's endangered.
Yeah, everything.
Everything's endangered. Like tigers, lions, rhinoceroses, giraffes, elephants, you name it. Any of these big land animals, predators, or just big land animals in general. We wiped the buffalo out in like, what, 20 years or 30 years in, you know, colonial times?
They used to like roam around everywhere. And
they used to just kill them, take the tongue, and send it back and leave the rest there to rot.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've heard stories about that.
But what are you going to do?
There's nothing we can do. It's just, other than just complain about it. That's what people say.
But so I'm swimming with sharks as much as I can for as long as I can. And I hope they don't get wiped off the planet. That's me. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, my kids are not going to be able to know what a polar bear is because all the freaking ecosystem and everything.
It's true. It'll be gone. It's sad. I want to hear you make that sound.
So you were telling Caesar right now that you were into psychedelics. What got you into them?
What got me into psychedelics?
Yeah.
So I was never really into any kind of drugs. I was an athlete. I like sports. I was just addicted to playing sports all the time. And at a certain point, I didn't come to psychedelics until like a little bit later in life. Like I was in my late 30s when psychedelics kind of came knocking on my door.
Okay.
And basically, I'm in a Tool tribute band.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who knows the band Tool, they are they surround themselves with psychedelic stuff. Like Alex Gray is this amazing artist, and all of his artwork is psychedelic, inspired artwork. Stuff that you see in a DMT trip or in a deep mushroom trip or something. He paints that stuff, and Tool uses his artwork as album covers and all kinds of stuff for their band, to represent their band. So I read Maynard, who's the singer. I read his autobiography, and in his autobiography, he describes using psychedelics for inspiration. And he said, and the way he described it was, it's something that you do, and you do it once, and then you don't have to do it again for 10 years because you have enough to draw from that one experience for a decade. And I was like, well, that seems crazy. What could you possibly get out of one experience that's that profound, you know? And so I started doing more research and reading books and listening to YouTube and different things. There wasn't a whole lot of YouTube stuff back then, but there was a little bit you could find. And I finally decided that mushrooms was the thing that I might want to try. If I was going to do a psychedelic, I was like, mushroom seems the safest. It seems natural. You just grow a mushroom and then you eat the mushroom. It's nothing. You're not putting any kind of crazy stuff on it or anything. And so I decided mushrooms was what I was going to do. And the craziest thing happened. I was learning as much as I could about mushrooms. I didn't know how to get them. I didn't know anybody because I don't run in those kind of circles. Nobody I knew really had psychedelic experience. And I saw Paul Stamets, who's this mycologist. He calls himself an amateur mycologist, but the guy's got deals with the DEA. He's got patents. He's got all kinds of mushroom. He's got a company that does nothing but mushroom stuff. And he was talking on the Joe Rogan podcast about his first experience with psilocybin mushrooms. And he described this night that was bonkers. where he climbed this tree in a thunderstorm and it was raining and he was tripping on this whole bag of mushrooms that he ate and he didn't know how to, what the dose should be or anything. And he said he's holding on to this tree for dear life and there's lightning and he's like, I shouldn't be up in this tree. I'm probably going to die. This is fucked up. And he's like, well, what can I get out of this if I don't die? And then he was a stutterer his whole life. He had a horrible stuttering problem and he couldn't talk to people. He couldn't talk to women, especially.
Like me.
Just like you.
Yeah.
Just like you. You just oink at them and they run away.
Okay, calm down. Calm down.
So,
Fuck off.
come on, just one. Just give us one. That was way too good.
Yeah,
all right. Anyways, so he described this night of just harrowing experience. Tripping on mushrooms up in this tree in a rainstorm on top of a hill. Should have been struck by lightning. He wasn't. But he was walking home the next day, and he saw this girl that he knew, and she was always nice to him, but he could never talk to her. He could never look her in the eye. And
Because he was a bitch or not?
And she was nice, but he just stuttered. He was ashamed of himself because he had this stuttering problem. And so she looked him in the eye, and she says, "Hi, Paul, how are you?" And he looked right back at her in the eye and didn't stutter a bit. And he said, I'm fine. How are you? Like, it was like,
Oh shit.
and it like cured his stuttering problem overnight from one experience. And I was like, what? That's fucking crazy. People go to speech therapists, and he'd been going to speech therapists for his whole childhood, trying to get rid of this stutter. And so the more I read, the more I wanted to experience this. And after watching that podcast, I went home and I was talking to my partner. I was telling her about the podcast. I'm like, oh, this thing really blew my mind. You got to listen to this. I really want to figure out how we can try these things legally or whatever. There's got to be a way. And my phone rings. And it's a buddy I had. I used to work at the YMCA. I was a summer camp counselor at the YMCA. And this guy I knew, maybe I shouldn't say his whole name, but that's his whole name. We used to play basketball tournaments and everything together. He's a cool dude. Mm-hmm. You can beep out his name later. It's fine. Charlie. But Charlie calls me and I'm like, oh, Charlie, what's up? And I answer the phone. He's like, hey, I got a question for you. I was like, okay, shoot, man, what's up? And he says, do you like mushrooms? And I'm like, the fuck? You listen to my conversation? What are you doing, man? Are you in my house right now? He lives in Mississippi. It's like, what the hell's going on? I thought he was pranking me, man, because this guy pranked me before. It was really messed up what he did, though. I'm gonna tell that story right now. Hold on, pause.
Okay.
Pause the mushroom story to do the Charlie story, because Charlie, don't ever do this. I'm gonna tell all you right now. Look, Mike, don't do this. Okay.
Wait, is this with drugs?
It's not with drugs. No. He called me one day, and I'm driving along. Charlie called. Hey, what's up, man? He's like, I got a problem. Okay. What's up? He's like, oh, I cheated on my girl. What? Why? He's like in love with this girl, right? I knew he was in love with this girl. I'm like, why? What happened? He's like, well, this girl came along. She's really hot, blah, blah, blah. But then one thing led to another, yada, yada. And he's like, what do I do? Should I tell her? I'm like, tell her? I'm like, okay, I'm assuming you want to stay with your girl, right? And he says, yeah. I said, then you don't tell her. And why would you tell her? You tell her, it's going to wreck it. You're going to wreck it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I just feel bad. If I don't tell her, I feel guilty. I'm like, yeah, you should feel guilty. You fucked up. You don't do that, man. Like, if you want to be with your girl, you don't cheat on your girl. Like, what the hell? Yeah. Why would you do that?
Correct.
But telling her, do you just add insult to injury? Now, maybe it's an unpopular opinion. I don't know. But if you want to preserve your relationship, I said, look, if you want to preserve your relationship, you don't tell her. You just treat her real fucking good and don't ever fucking do it again.
Just live with the conscience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he starts laughing. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Why are you laughing? He's like, she's on the phone with us right now. I call you on three-way. What? Why would you do that? What if I would have said something horrible about her? Like,
fuck. Well, at least you didn't.
You know what I'm saying? But apparently they had a wager going of what I would say about it. And I'm like, hey, I'm honest. I don't pull punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad about saying what I said. You shouldn't cheat on your girl.
Of course you shouldn't.
But if you did do that already and it's in the past and you don't want to continue doing that and you love your girl, then what are you doing by telling her about it? Just ruining your relationship. Am I wrong?
I feel like no, you're right. But I feel like some people do make mistakes like that.
I know they do. A lot of
Yeah,
people do.
a lot of
A lot of people do. A lot of people think you got to tell her no matter what, and that's fine. To each their own.
I even made those mistakes before, and I'm not happy about it. I'm not.
Well, tell me more.
So I guess I was talking to this girl.
You guess?
Yeah, I guess.
He guesses he was talking to this girl.
And
Oh, lady boy.
shut the fuck up.
Well, you said I guess I was talking to a girl.
I had to check.
And I guess she saw, like, I was on my phone and she saw, like, oh, who's texting you? She asked me that. And I didn't think anything of it at first because we were just in the talking stage. And I showed her, like, the message, like, oh, like, this girl texted me, but it's my friend. And she, like, automatically just left, started crying. And I felt like, what the fuck? Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And then later on, I started realizing, I was like, yeah, dude, no, I fucked up.
You know when you fucked up just now?
What?
When you said we were just in the talking stage.
No, I feel like...
Because there's an implication there.
Yeah.
There's another stage you're going towards.
Well, isn't that, what stages are for you? Like, what stages are you thinking of? Because for me, I feel like there's talking stage and the dating stage and the marriage stage.
I don't believe in marriage.
No, you don't.
No, it's ridiculous.
Oh.
It's nonsense.
Never mind, guys.
But yeah, okay, talking stage.
And dating, like
Dating stage?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess, like...
What about hookup stage? Is there a hookup stage?
That's just a one night stand.
One night stand. Have you had
What
those?
about like someone you just hook up with?
What if like friends with benefits?
Those never work out, though.
They're not supposed to.
They never work out. I don't know,
They're supposed to
never
work out.
though. They never do.
They catch feelings, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of
Do you
fucking
catch
time.
them or does she catch them?
Just hear my speaker.
Let's get to the psychedelics, man. We'll get
Okay,
to the
okay.
psychedelics.
Sorry, back to the mushroom story. All right. So, anyways, Charlie's on the phone and I'm freaking out because I'm like, are you listening to our conversation right now? How do you know I'm talking about mushrooms? This is crazy. And he starts laughing. He's like, no, not. I wasn't talking about psychedelic mushrooms. I was talking about like oyster mushrooms, like gourmet mushrooms and shit. He's like, you should start growing them because there's a big market for it in Phoenix. I'm like, okay, that's okay. What? That's so weird though and random that you just call me about mushrooms. I'm trying to figure out how to get my hands on psychedelic mushrooms. Like, well, I used to grow those. I got some if you want me to send you some. What? You serious right now? He's like, yeah. And so he ended up sending me like this little like air sealed package of mushrooms. And that's what I first tried. And I didn't have a real trip for months. Like I was dosing up
You
a little
had or
bit.
you didn't?
I didn't have.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out what's safe and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very analytical. I'm very scientific minded. So like I'm writing everything down, exact, grams and dosage and everything, and what happened at what time on the onset and all this stuff. I think now, looking back on all of it, I think that those mushrooms probably were too old because they lose some potency over time. If you store them, they lose potency. Now, these were airtight. They were sealed. So they really shouldn't have lost too much potency. But given that I took the amounts I was taking of these things and I wasn't having like a full-on psychedelic trip, I think probably they had lost some potency. And then I finally did have like this mind-blowing trip, and I probably took way more than anybody should ever take of mushrooms, right? I would say 15 grams, probably at least 15 grams this one night.
How much is it?
And I took it with my buddy. I took it with a buddy that was staying with me from the UK.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, you want to try these things? I got these things. And, he's like,
and how
sure.
many grams is in one?
How many grams is in one what?
In I don't know how it works. I guess
how dosage works?
Yeah.
Okay, so different strains of mushrooms have different potency.
Okay.
So what you need is the psilocybin. The psilocybin is in the mushroom. It's all through it. It's in the stem. It's in the cap, and it's dispersed at varying degrees in both of those parts of the mushroom.
Okay.
you can't tell. There's no way to go, oh, well, this has this much exactly. Like you could like boil it all down and take it out and then test it in a, electroencephalograph, whatever the hell the spectrometer thing, and find out how much psilocybin's in there. But it's really hard with mushrooms, particularly, to find out what the right dosage is because they're all different. You could grow one strain in a big box, and this mushroom over here will have a certain potency, and this one will have a different potency, and this one will have a different potency. They'll all be slightly different.
Okay.
Now, across the whole thing, it probably averages out to around the same, but each individual mushroom has a different potency, and it depends on how long they take to grow. There's all kinds of different factors. So there's different strains that take longer to grow. Like there's one called penis envy.
Okay.
Because it looks like a
Penis
dick.
envy?
It looks like a dick. It really does. And so albino penis envy became a very popular strain because it was very potent. But the reason it's so potent is because it takes forever to grow. It takes months. It takes months for these things to grow. And so all that time it's accumulating more psilocybin in the body of the mushroom. And the body of the mushroom is just the fruit. It's just the fruit. It's like an apple on a tree, right? So the mycelium is underground. And it's just like little spiderweb looking tentacles that go out and look for nutrients. That's the plant. Those are penis envy right there.
That actually looks like a penis.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, young Jamie. No. So the mycelium, there are health benefits to the mycelium as well. And Paul Stamets uses mycelium from different kinds of mushrooms like lion's mane or cordyceps or all these different types of medicinal mushrooms that aren't psychedelic, but they do have very powerful medicinal effects on a person.
Okay.
And he'll use the mycelium, he'll mix the mycelium, and he believes that it has some very useful medicinal value. But when it comes to psychedelic mushrooms, you only use the fruit, okay?
The fruit.
The fruit, which is the actual mushroom itself that pops up.
Okay.
And so when it comes to dosage, you need to be familiar with the strain that you're working with. And then you need to be familiar with like the range of what the possible dosage could be. And you don't want to go too high or too low, right? And the only way you can really know is by testing each batch and seeing where it takes you.
Okay.
And so I was on this thing where I had the one batch that I got from my buddy that I was testing, like trying to figure out how potent these things are, what they do for me. And, like I said, I got to that magic number at a high dose. Normally when you take mushrooms, like a microdose is 0.01 to 0.03 grams, right?
Okay.
It's very small, very small. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 0.1 to 0.3. Anyways, it's a very small amount of material. That's a microdose, and that won't have any effects.
Okay.
You won't see anything weird. Lights might look a little brighter, but you're not going to feel like you're tripping.
Okay.
Then you get, for a slightly elevated dose, if you take like 0.4 to like say 0.7, you're going to have some effects. You're going to have some mild psychedelic effects, but you're probably not going to be like, oh my God, the walls are breathing and the carpet's walking around. Like it's not going to be like that, right? But you will know you're tripping. You will know you don't feel good. You don't feel like everything's normal. Like everything's not normal at that point. And then if you go higher than that, like a lot of recreational doses start at about 1 gram to 1.5 grams and move up to 5 grams, which is the heroic dose, they call it. It's a heroic dose.
Have you done 5 grams?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
I've done a lot more than 5 grams.
Oh shit.
A lot.
What was like the first symptom? Like not symptom. I don't even know. But
so
you encounter like, oh shit, like
it's really hard to focus when he's crawling across the floor like that.
Doesn't he look like a raccoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elmo knows a raccoon. I
just say this shit.
Okay, so there's a guy who was a famous like orator. He used to talk and give lectures all the time.
Okay.
Terrence McKenna.
Okay.
Terrence
McKenna.
And his brother Dennis is part of MAPS. He works really closely in the psychedelic space, trying to get MDMA and other substances legal for therapeutic uses. He's a legit scientist. He's an ethnobotanist. Okay, and he's legit, like all on the up and up. But Terrence and Dennis, they were the first ones like to really, they wrote a book about how to like grow mushrooms.
Oh,
they
shit.
released it under other names that weren't their names because they didn't want to get busted, because this is like back in the 70s. They didn't want to get in trouble. And so, but Terrence, he would always say that 5 grams in silent darkness is where it's at. So you go into a dark room, you take 5 grams of mushrooms, and you just ride the fucking wave. And that is the ultimate heroic psychedelic experience that you can have. Now you think, oh, in the dark, why would that be?
Yeah.
Because you see all kinds of shit. Yeah. You're not in a dark space for very long. Once those things kick in, you are watching movies in your fucking head.
Dude, imagine doing like shrooms in a fucking haunted house and shit. Imagine. Like 5 grams. Would that affect anything?
It would definitely affect you.
Dude.
You're going to see some stuff. I don't know if it's going to be ghosts, but I bet you'll think it is.
Is it black demons?
Yeah. See, the mushroom, the mushroom is an interesting psychedelic because anybody who knows anything about mushrooms will tell you that mushrooms, they're not one of the easiest ones. They're not one of the ones that you're going to get what you want out of them. They will give you what you need whether you want it or not. They're gonna be unpredictable.
Okay.
They're gonna take you on a journey that is gonna make you feel very uncomfortable.
But you won't know the journey. What's gonna come.
No, you can't like manifest the trip you want. Okay. That's not a thing. Like you can't do it. You could try all you want. At the end of the day, you're gonna get what that mushroom's gonna give you, whether you like it or not.
Okay.
Okay. So I played around with a lot of different substances, like trying to learn more about myself. Like that's the whole point of these things. Psychedelics are not bad. I mean, they've been demonized. They've been illegalized because, you know, the people in charge, they don't want people having their eyes open. They don't want the public to be thinking for themselves or questioning their authority. So they created this whole war on drugs to make sure that didn't happen.
I heard it could open up your third eye, I guess that's what they say it.
That's a saying. The third eye is the pineal gland.
Okay.
All right. The pineal gland is in the center of your brain. The only part of your brain that's not mirrored, right? There's like both, everything in your brain has a right side and a left side, right? Mm-hmm. That pineal gland sits right in the middle, and it sits right above the parts of your brain that control like your emotions, your visual cortex, your auditory senses, all these things. It sits right above them, and it interacts with all of those things simultaneously. Yeah. So it's actually a vestigial eye. It is. Like in lizards, if their skull's real thin, their pineal gland they can actually use to see light.
Oh shit!
Because it's like an eye.
Like legit an eye.
Legit like an eye. Yeah, it's got receptors in it that pick up light.
Oh shit!
Okay. So it hasn't evolved into being an actual eye, but it has all the same properties. So it could have been like maybe mammals or whatever. At some point, there was a chance we could have had 3 eyes. You know, we could have had another eye up here or something, and we'd have tri-vision. You know, so people say open your third eye. There was that famous psychologist. Anyways, he said it was the seat of the soul. That's what the pineal gland was, the seat of the soul.
Okay.
He believed that's where your soul lived, was right there in the pineal gland. And the Egyptians, you know, the Eye of Horus looks like a pineal gland. The Egyptians were very in tune with the body, and they did all this mummification stuff. And so anyways, yeah, opening your third eye is basically just tapping into the fact that we are all beings experiencing this existence through filters that make us see the world a certain way, right?
Okay.
And when you are able to open your third eye, you're able to see beyond the veil of all of that kind of nonsense that's not that important to us. Okay, it shouldn't be that important to us, right? All this the physical stuff, all the shallow, ego-driven things that we do are not as important as the whole of what life is, you know. Yeah. And psychedelics show you that they like put it in your face to where you can't ignore it. So it's interesting.
And what's a good way not to get a bad trip? Like what should you do to get a good trip?
So within the psychedelic space, when we talk about bad trips, people bring up bad trips a lot. A lot of people say there's no such thing as a bad trip. There's just challenging experiences. Fair enough. I get it. I've had very challenging experiences that I myself consider bad trips. But it's because I was very, very uncomfortable. I was very, I felt broken by it almost. Okay. I felt like my entire world collapsed around me, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to go through it. There's no way to get out of it.
And you could say psychedelics helped you with that. Like
psychedelics caused that.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. So, bad trips happen for a number of reasons. One big one is your set, which is your mindset going into it. Like if you're all fucked up, like people say like psychedelics are great for depression. I agree. They can be great for depression. But if you don't prep yourself for it properly and go into it with the right mindset regarding your depression, it can spiral you deeper into that depression. It can take you to places you don't want to go, and it could break you. You know what I mean? So you got to be real careful. Yeah. So set and setting. So set is your mindset going in, right?
Okay.
And so if you're dealing with trauma, if you're dealing with depression or anxiety or any of the things that people are touting psychedelics can help with, they can help a lot. They can help these people so much. It's crazy, these tools, what they can do. But you got to do the prep work. So you got to prepare that person's mindset for this experience that's going to challenge them. It's going to challenge their beliefs. It's going to challenge their grasp on reality in some cases. And they have to be ready for that and accept it. If they accept it, it's a lot easier. If they fight it the whole time, they can have a terrible time. Okay? And then setting is where you are. So if you're in your house, you feel safe. You have walls around you. You feel safe. You lock the door. You don't think anybody's going to come in. I don't like tripping inside. It's weird. Like you feel confined. You want to get the fuck out, right? But there's an also caveat to tripping outside, because then you're not safe. You feel like someone could just walk in on your trip and
ruin it.
When you're in that space, that headspace, you don't want to talk to other people. You don't want to talk to like a stranger that's not tripping.
Yeah,
that's awkward. So it's not a comfortable feeling. I made a huge mistake one time thinking, because everybody told me, oh, you got to do it in nature, man. You got to do it out in the woods. Like that's the best place. Nothing's like it. It's the greatest. Okay, I can see that, but I am way too much of an overanalyzer.
Okay.
That I can feel comfortable there like that, because when you start tripping, everything that you had going on before, all of your logic and all of your problem solving skills and all of the things that make you who you are, all that shit goes out the window, because now you're tripping and you're no longer the same rational minded person that you were before. Internally, you can still have rational thought. You can still, reason through these crazy ideas that are popping through your head. But when you're interacting with the outside world, it's very difficult because everything's weird. Everything's a little off. And you're like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable. And so I did that in the woods. I did it at a campsite. And right before I took this massive dose of mushrooms, the park ranger came by and he's like, hey, I just want to let you guys know I'm around. If you need anything, I'll stop by. And, if you need more firewood or something, I'll be here. I'll be here the whole time. You guys are good. Yeah, blah, blah. And so that's running through my head as I'm starting tripping, and I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, so
I'm too far gone now. What if he comes back? Oh, mother, this is not good. And then you start having more thoughts about, oh, there's bears. There's bears out here and mountain lions. And what if it snows in May? It's not going to snow, but you're outside. Nothing's in your control. Nothing's in your control anymore.
So it's the overthinking that ruins it.
For me, it is. Absolutely. Okay. Some people just don't. I mean, I had this buddy. He's a singer in another band and coolest dude I know. One of the coolest people I know. He asked me to get him some mushrooms, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, I think I could probably hook you up. Let me see if I can get some, And so I got a little bag of I'm like, okay, I'm just doing down low, right? No, fucking. So we're outside after a gig at a bar in a parking lot. He's like, oh, did you get those mushrooms? Oh yeah, in my backpack, man, here. And I give them to him, and he opens it and starts eating the mushrooms. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I've been waiting for these for weeks. I'm like, just right now? Just okay? It's like, not me. I would never, ever do that. Like, that's crazy, right? But some people, they take mushrooms and go to a festival. They take mushrooms and, I can't imagine interacting with that many people in public
And being
tripping. I can't imagine it. It's just not me. But to each their own, right?
fuck.
Yeah.
So you're talking with Mark about certain psychedelics and about bad trips. Is bad trips an actual thing? Like, is there ever really a really bad trip? And what was your worst?
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. So bad trips definitely can be a thing. They definitely happen. And like I said, a lot of people don't like to call it a bad trip. They just call it a challenging experience, which is fair enough. I get it. But a challenging experience can be fucking horrible, right? I had the unfortunate circumstance arise where my bad trip was the first time I had a trip by myself. I always tripped with a friend. I always tripped with, my partner or a group of people or somebody I trusted was a sitter, whatever. I always had somebody there, which is the smart way to do things. But there was this one time that I had a horrible week. Just really bad stuff happened at work. And, I had a guy fall out of a tree and shattered his spine. It was really bad. And then I found out he was doing drugs, unbeknownst to me. And that it pissed me off on many levels. And I was angry, but I was hurt. And I felt betrayed, all these things, I still wanted to help his wife and his family and stuff. I wanted to make sure they're okay, but like, fuck that dude. Well, how dare you do that? I'm an arborist. I trim trees. I climb trees. It's a dangerous job. You have to be clear-headed. You have to be sober. You cannot be messing around with anything, nothing in those kind of circumstances, And so for him to do that was just a slap in the face. And then another guy on my crew cut himself with a chainsaw the same week. Had to take him in and get stitched up and everything. It was nasty. So all this stuff's in my head. And I had a previous trip on a very high dose of mushrooms. I'm not going to say how high it was because it's ridiculous and nobody should ever take that much. But I took it with an MAOI, which I was experimenting with this reaction of these two substances. And MAOI is what you take with ayahuasca to make it orally active. So MAO is monoamine oxidase, and it's in your body. It's your body produces it to basically stop you from tripping all the time. And so if you eat like DMT, dimethyltryptamine, if you just eat it, your body breaks it down so fast it never gets through the blood-brain barrier. You don't trip at all. It has no activation whatsoever. But if you take an MAOI, which inhibits the monoamine oxidase, then it allows it to get through the blood-brain barrier and you have a freaking crazy trip. Okay, so ayahuasca, when they do ayahuasca, the actual ayahuasca vine with the name ayahuasca is the MAOI. That's the monoamine oxidase inhibitor. And then the chacruna leaves, or there's a few different types of plants that have high levels of DMT in them. Those contain the DMT. Right. And so they mix it together, and that's how you have a trip with drinking that tea. Now, I read several places said that MAO inhibitors could actually help with mushrooms as well. They can actually interact and cause your mushroom trip to be more intense, longer lasting, all of these things. And I'm like, oh, let's give it a shot, Now I think that maybe they have more of a controlling, mitigating effect on the mushroom trip because I took really high doses, like stupid high. And I didn't just willy-nilly take them. I had worked my way up to these doses. I felt comfortable. I felt safe. I just wanted to see how deep the rabbit hole would go,
right?
And I had this amazing experience. Like, I'm talking, this is gonna sound crazy, right? And I know it does, but I literally traveled mentally to another planet, and I became, or I inhabited, or whatever. I was this creature on the other planet, and it was so real.
Holy shit!
It was such a mind fuck because it was so real that I was this thing. It was closest to like a horse, right? But I had more than 4 legs, and the air was real thick. It was like real thick and like kind of reddish purple. And when you breathe, you could actually feel the air going through your mouth and into your lungs. You could feel it all the way down. Like right now you take a breath, air doesn't really feel like much, but this felt like you were almost breathing water, right? And so like, it was crazy. But in that brief moment that I was there as this thing, I knew my whole life there. I knew where my home was. I knew where food was. I knew where everything that I needed was, because that I was this thing. Mm-hmm. And then I was back in my body, like on earth, like what the hell just happened? You know, it was so crazy. But it was like it was so amazing. I was like, I want to do that again. Oh my God, that was so cool. And you get all these deep, you know, revelations about yourself and your psyche and all these things, along with all these crazy like visuals and whatnot. Yeah. You get a lot out of it. And so when I took this high dose, I felt like it like really centered me and made me feel good for a long time. There's this afterglow with psychedelics that lasts for days, weeks, months, years sometimes. And I felt that for so long. And then I had this horrible week. And I thought, oh, if I just take a high dose psychedelic journey, I'll reset and feel good again. But that's not, I feel like I'm on psychedelics right now. The things I'm seeing, ladies and gentlemen, are not kosher. Not at all.
You guys want to see some behind the scenes?
You fuck that pig. You do it.
That's crazy. Why are you guys so sweaty? And I'm wearing your clothes too.
That was the weirdest thing ever.
So anyways, I stupidly thought, you know, I can do this. I can take a high dose again and I'll get back to where I was and feel happy again and all this nonsense will go away. That's not how it works though. Because like I said, set and setting are everything. Right. My mindset was not good. I was in a dark place because of all the things I had seen and been through that week. Setting was not right because I'm alone. The first time ever tripping alone. I didn't have anybody there to back me up in case something went sideways. Right. And I knew that. I never needed them before. It never came up before that something went sideways, but they were always there. So I had the safety net of another person just in case. And that was gone now. So it's a whole different setting, bad set. And I had what I would call a horror trip.
Horror trip?
I died every way a human being's ever died.
Holy shit.
I was killed multiple ways, firing squad, gas chambers of Auschwitz, all the horrible things you can imagine, Native Americans on the plains, all the things you could just, you know, all these people have died over the centuries, you know, and I lived those deaths that night. It was horrible. And on top of it, I kind of think I had a psychotic break. So I've taken a lot of psychology classes, and I want to help people. That's the whole point. I want to help people. And looking at the DSM-5 and looking through all the different diagnoses and stuff, I think I did have a psychotic break at some point during that trip where my life was not real. I didn't think my life was real. I thought I made it all up. I thought I made up my kids. I thought I made up everything, like my house. It wasn't my house anymore. I was in this strange place, and I was mourning the loss of my kids because they didn't really exist in that moment. I had convinced myself through this horrible stuff I was being dissolved in acid by aliens. What the fuck? Now, I don't know if that's a memory of something that's actually happened or if it's just my brain made it up, but it felt and seemed real in the moment. So in those dark moments and pain and all the things, I was feeling that I made up my life, which I love my life. I love my family, my kids, everything. I love it, right? I made it up to cope with what I was going through while I was dying.
That's so weird.
It was dark, man. Yeah. It was real dark. And honestly, it took me 3 weeks, solid 3 weeks of like meditating every day and really trying to come to grips with like reality to get back to where I felt like I was normal again, like my old self again after that trip. And I didn't trip again after that for over a year because it shook me too much. I was too afraid to go back. And then I slowly started dipping my toe back in and got comfortable again. And I'm like, I feel good about it now. I'm not scared of it anymore. But for a minute, that when I first started dipping my toe again, I was terrified that I was going to have that same kind of experience. And I didn't want to ever have that experience again.
Right.
Now, to make the point about how challenging experience is compared to bad trips, now the challenging experience I had in that, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about people with mental issues, with mental health issues. I learned so much that I would never have known had I not been through that myself. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, it was a learning moment, right? And so I gained from it for sure, but it's horrible. And there's probably better ways to learn, right? But I don't know if you can really learn what it's like to be schizophrenic or, all these different diagnoses people have without going through it yourself and actually feeling it and living it, that you can know and be like, I completely empathize with you. Before that, I cared when people had problems. I cared, but I didn't understand. I couldn't really empathize with it because I didn't know what they were really
you don't
going
know exactly
through.
What
Right.
they feel.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Because, like you said, there's challenging trips. Is there also certain trips that are good and that like help you, like if you're struggling or like going through a certain mindset situation? Is there certain trips that can like put you on the right path?
Oh yeah.
Or like to fix certain things or open
100%,
your eyes?
100%. So, there's a lot that we don't understand about the mind and how it works, right? And a big thing that science has recently found in the last, say, 20 years or so is this default mode network that we run on. And it's basically a lazy way of our brain working things out. Mm-hmm. And so the default mode network helps us make decisions faster. It's just like an automatic pilot. So when we, go to a stop sign in our neighborhood, and we turn right, we just get accustomed to doing that because that's the way we go most of the time. Mm-hmm. Unless there's something that's actually forcing us that we're going to have to go the other way, and we know it, we have to actually think about that decision. But when we're on autopilot, you're driving down the freeway. How often have you driven down the freeway like 10 miles and you're like, how the hell did I go so far without even paying attention? I wasn't even paying attention, right? That's your default mode network. You're just autopilot. And so we make decisions based on our autopilot all the time. And what happens is we tend to overlook a lot of things, okay, because of that. And what psychedelics do, this motherfucker keeps changing clothes. I feel like I'm at the Corey Feldman show.
That's changing drugs.
So anyways, what the psychedelic experience does is it quiets down that default mode network and allows us to have new, novel thoughts. And it's constant though. It's not like you just have one novel thought and then that's it. You just have novel thoughts about everything now, right? For the whole duration of that trip. And it carries over into after that trip too, because you don't forget things. It's not like a deliriant or a downer like alcohol or other drugs can be. You're fully aware the whole time. You can create memories in that space just as easily as you can when you're sober. Okay. So what it allows you to do, my favorite analogy that I heard someone say one time is it was like a ski slope. When a skier goes down that slope, he creates grooves in the snow. And then the more skiers that go down that slope, they keep following that path and that groove gets real deep and it's very easy to follow. Now, when you try to go outside of that groove, it's hard, because you're fighting against what your skis naturally want to do. Well, psychedelics smooth all that snow over and allow you to create your new paths anywhere you want to go. That's cool. So that's how come they use them in like Silicon Valley. They microdose to try and solve problems, when they're dealing with complex issues and they can't really figure out an answer. Like, well, take a little microdose. Maybe I can come up with some new thoughts on this, and that's kind of how it works. For me, it was one of the most eye-opening was a tree in my front yard. I've lived in this house for 14 years, 15 years, whatever, 17, I don't know how many years, a long time. I have this tree in my front yard that I walk by every day, but I never really looked at it, until I was tripping one night and I walked outside and I look up in this tree, the moon, I could see the reflection of the moon on every leaf of the tree. And it was so beautiful. And I was like, how have I been ignoring this every day of my life for the past decade? And now every time I look at that tree, I have a greater appreciation for it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing. What the fuck is going on back there?
I think Caesar's taking dick pics and showing them to Elmo.
That makes a lot of sense.
That would be bad.
That would have been better.
Better than what the fuck he's doing.
So, I guess my final question tonight, this
Just
episode.
finish better than Mark.
I'll try.
That's what she said.
So, I know that LSD is also is it like a hallucinogen?
Yeah.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah, that is one term people use for all psychedelics are in some way a hallucinogen. I prefer the term entheogen,
Entheogen.
which means the rough translation is it puts God in you, right? I'm not a religious person,
Right.
but I have become quite spiritual because of psychedelics. Like, there's definitely something going on that we're not fully aware of, that we don't understand. And so I'd like to explore that as far as I can. Now, LSD was the mother of all psychedelics. Albert Hoffman discovered it. Well, I think he rediscovered it, but he synthesized it in 1940 or 1938 the first time. And he was looking for a drug that would control bleeding in women after they have a baby. It's a vasodilator, so it restricts blood vessels and veins and whatnot, and stops the blood flow.
Right.
Well, he tried this LSD. He made multiple iterations of this synthesis that wasn't getting him the results he wanted. So the 25th synthesis of this drug, he tried it, didn't do anything. He put it on a shelf, just logged it away. Like, it didn't give me the desired result. But for some reason, it stuck in his head. Like, that LSD 25 seems like something more to be found by that. So 5 years later, he went back into the lab, resynthesized LSD 25. And during the process of it, he somehow got some on him. Now, LSD is very potent. Yeah. So, like, if I had a rubber glove on and I put just a drop of LSD and then I rubbed your arm, you'd be tripping in 45 minutes.
Holy shit.
Okay. So, it's very potent. He doesn't know how he got it on him, but he was like, I'm all fucked up. I got to go. And so he ended up riding home and, took a sick day, whatever. But he had these crazy vivid dreams. Like, oh my God, like, that was wild. I've never had dreams like that in my life. So he went back into the lab. He said, look, there's something up with this. I'm going to make it. I'm going to take some on purpose and see what it does. Right. And he took what he thought was a very small amount because for other drugs, I mean, like, say like a Tylenol, right? How much is in a standard Tylenol? Like 250 milligrams or something, right? Okay. So he thought, well, if I just take, like, I think he took 250 micrograms or something like that. Well, 250 micrograms is a pretty legit dose of LSD. Like, you start at like 100 micrograms and you go up to like 300 or 400 micrograms, you're fucking out of your mind, right? It's a lot. Mm-hmm. So he took 250, it's a lot. And the effects started hitting him. He's like, oh shit, I gotta go. And so him and his lab assistant, escorted him home. Well, back then it was in Sweden, Switzerland, whatever. And he left Sandoz Laboratories and rode his bicycle home with his assistant. And so that is now known as Bicycle Day. It's a psychedelic holiday. It happens on April 19th, the day before 420.
Nice.
And so he went home. He's tripping. He called the doctor. He's like, I think I'm going to die. Definitely going to die. Get over here. And the doctor comes over there. He's like, I don't know. I'm going to be fine. All your vitals are fine. Take some milk. What the fuck? I'll call me tomorrow. I don't know. And so he went on to have this crazy trip. And then, he went back into the lab. He's like, this stuff's crazy. We need to send it out to everybody we can, have them try it and see what they think. And so he ended up sending LSD all over the fucking world to all these different psychology professors, which is how Timothy Leary got a hold of it. So Timothy Leary gets a hold of this mayonnaise jar full of LSD, liquid LSD, and starts just doing all kinds of crazy experiments with LSD. The crazy thing about LSD, God damn, Mark. The crazy thing about LSD is his tits. No, is... I can't, okay. The crazy thing about LSD is its duration. Mm-hmm. Okay, so your standard trip with mushrooms is like, say 4 to 6 hours, right? Sometimes it can go up to like 8 if you take more, if you like a little more during the trip or something, but 4 to 6 hours, pretty safe, standard amount it's going to affect you for. LSD is 12 hours.
Holy shit.
12 hours. Like, it's not a casual undertaking. You are in for a long time, so I don't have a lot of experience with LSD because of that. I can't win. When do I have fucking 12 hours? I can't just fuck off. I don't.
Your whole day.
It's really hard to do, you know? So I do want to experiment more with LSD because there's a lot of benefit to it. And it's similar to mushrooms, but it's different. It's got a different feel. Like mushrooms feel more organic, more.
Do you think mushrooms are safer than taking LSD? Just because they come more natural.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. I mean, if you're talking about pure substances, LSD is not dangerous. You just have to get the dosage right, right? Just like any drug. What is happening over here? But any drug, it doesn't matter what. Aspirin, like if you don't have the right dosage, it'll fuck you up. You know, so that's with psychedelics too. Like, you know, the poison is in the dose. Like if you don't dose right, you're gonna have a bad time. You know, LSD, it's a very small amount. Like that's why blotter paper became the trend, is because it's just a drop of liquid on each one of those little squares, you know, and that's enough to send you on a wild ride. Mushrooms takes a little more. You know, you need to eat, you know, 1 gram to 2 grams of mushrooms to have like a psychedelic effect. So 12 hours though, man. I don't know.
That's a long time. That's a whole day.
Yeah, it's a whole day. There's a lot of psychedelics though. I mean, there's like ibogaine 24 hours. And some people say it can last as long as a week. Now, ibogaine is a very interesting thing though, because ibogaine actually can reverse addiction. Like physically, like in your brain can reverse addiction. So I have a buddy who is on meth and all this. He was all fucked up, right? He was on all these drugs and he didn't know what to do. He went to rehab so many times and like he ended up going down to Mexico to do this rehab place. And he was smoking weed because he smoked weed every day. And he picked up this pipe and he goes to smoke this weed. And the guy's like, hey, be careful, man. We smoke changa with that. He's like, oh, sweet. He thought he was talking about weed, you know, but changa is actually DMT. It's herbs infused with DMT. And so he smokes this pipe and he's like, goes out of his fucking mind for 10 minutes and comes back and goes, what the fuck just happened? You know, and then he learned that's what his first psychedelic like initiation was by accident. But then they told him, look, if you want to get off of this addictive shit you're on, ibogaine will get you there. Ibogaine is one of the more dangerous psychedelics though. Like you have to have a doctor present because it can have adverse effects with your heart rate and things like that. So you do have to have like a medical professional there ready just in case. But these things, man, it's a powerful, powerful psychedelic, and people come out of it and it changes the way their brain interacts with these chemicals. So it doesn't need the chemical anymore. It doesn't need that dopamine hit anymore. Right. It takes it away. So you might still want to do the drug because you're addicted personality-wise, right? Psychologically, you could still be addicted to the drug, but physically, you're no longer dependent on it, which is amazing. They need to do more research in it. I mean,
that could probably help a lot of people that are suffering with addiction that just can't get off of it, you know?
Yeah, and then MDMA is the other one. MDMA is the one they're studying the most right now, but MDMA is not really a psychedelic. It's classified in the same categories as psychedelics, but it's not a hallucinogen, right? So you don't see, there's no visuals with it. But I've had people tell me they had visuals with it, but I don't know if I trust that. But what it does is it lowers your inhibition. Okay. And the reason it can help people, you know, psychologically is because people get so bound up in their fears of talking about things that hurt them, their traumas. Right.
Right. And
so like for soldiers, Elmo's got his MAGA hat on over here. So people who are dealing with traumas, soldiers coming back with PTSD, that kind of thing, they don't want to talk about it, you know? Yeah. So you go to therapy, you have to really trust your therapist to talk about these things, and they don't. So it takes years, you know, years to open up about certain things that happen to them. Whereas if they take MDMA, they lose all of the inhibition, and they're not afraid to talk about it anymore. They're not afraid to confront it.
Right.
And so it can really, they say it can bottle up 10 years of therapy in one session because it allows them just to be free and open and not afraid of what hurt them before, you know?
Yeah, I believe there has to be a lot more research done with that. So
there's been so much research done with it, man. Like the problem we have in this country, in the United States and all around the world, honestly, is our drug laws are bullshit. Our drug laws were built as a form of control of the population. They were not made to keep us safe. They were not made to, stop this craze that was going on. That's all bullshit. The drug laws are an element of control and nothing more. We should be autonomous, which means we should be able to rely on ourselves to do what we want to do with our life. Otherwise, we're not free. None of us are free. So I want freedom. I want freedom for everybody. And if drugs are legal, drugs are safer and less people die. That's the truth. That's logic. That's reason. All the other shit is just fucking a smokescreen for people wanting to control other people like it's been forever.
If there's anything that you want to say to the audience about... I don't know.
About anything.
I'm butchering it.
Write your congressman. Legalize all drugs.
Yeah, I drew a blank.
Nothing but love.
There you go. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out Gary. He's pretty cool. You have socials?
I do. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Gary DeSanti, but I'm going to have a podcast coming out soon, Trippin' Billy's podcast. Come check us out. We're going to talk about all things mushroom and scuba diving with sharks and psychedelics and all that good shit.
There you go.
Work It Out podcast too. Don't forget about that.
Make sure you guys check out this icon up here. Make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Check out the Hape episode. It's fun. Work It Out podcast.
All right, then. Talk to you guys later.